So quite a rally so far, huh? Jeez Louise. So where we're going next seems fairly obvious at this point because we were able to return back to where the previous liquidity got swept. That's pretty much a break in the local bearish structure, paired with the fact that we have still all the stack liquidity all the way up. There's still more up here and more up here. So we're not out of the woods just yet. You need to add mic filters in your streaming software, but you can do that for next stream. Yeah, no, normally NVIDIA Broadcast will just block out all the background noise, but seems like it doesn't want to work right now. Do I have a certain setting on? No, it looks normal. It's weird. Anyways, so the local bearish structure broke, paired with the fact that we have a bunch of fragile structure on the top side. So I have a better idea of what the supply and demand is looking like. Obviously, this is a pretty strong move so far. It's actually quite impressive. I wasn't really expecting it to be this strong. I told you yesterday the only play was to long, but I certainly did not expect it to be this strong. I don't think many people did. So there's a couple of areas we can look for. The closest one is obviously all the liquidity that's built around 93. So clearing out 93 and then seeing if there's a strong rejection from there. If that's the case, then we'll see an imbalance of supply and demand on the top side. But with this kind of momentum, it's certainly possible we just clear it all out. And that would take us pretty much above 97, so up here. Now, there isn't too much high time frame confluence with these levels, so we're gonna have to watch the price action, how it actually plays out when we get closer to it. Because there's not high time frame confluence, it's hard to nail down exactly where it's going to reverse from a precision standpoint. But as far as the bottom side now, where could you look forward to add on to longs? We just had the local test here. This one is a bit trickier to grab. And it's ideal that you let it come up a bit more if you're going for that one. It's rather aggressive. And then if it starts to float low again, 85.6 looks pretty good, but I do want to see how it behaves around there. So if we get a strong rejection here, then adding on to longs looks decent at around 90, 180. But we do want to hold that if we go for it, because if we don't, we've created a void in both ways. So as you saw, we went straight down on Bitcoin. There wasn't any data to really back up why people would sell if price was able to return to this void. So same thing was created again, which means that if we return to it, there shouldn't be that much data to back up buying it in the void. So that's why it's pretty important to hold this. If this is not held, then we trail low to 85. If 85 is not held, then we make a new low lower than 80. In the previous stream, I talked about what the negative ramifications of that would be if we go below 80. But we don't really need to talk about the downside too much right now, because obviously the markets are pumping. It's just whether or not I'm online streaming. If I'm not streaming, then these are the areas that I'm personally going to be looking at. And then topside stuff, we can yield to some stuff here on the left, but it doesn't really get that interesting until we get a bit higher. We want to see a test all the way up to 108, 109 before we really run into deeper turbulence. There's some stuff up here as well, but if we can manage to get back up to 118, even if we take out this local liquidity, it should lead into a sweep into the liquidity, which would just mean that we've stacked more invalidations at the same spot. So we've got a long ways to go before we get there, right? Still one step at a time, but when looking for high time frame confluence for where we could see turbulence, there's really not much until we get a bit higher. So most of the opportunities to add on to shorts before we get up there are going to be a little bit lower probability. Going to be a bit harder to grab. But if the structure starts to build, it'll make it a little bit easier. It's just hard to call exactly what that structure is going to look like until we get there, if we get there. But it's what can I say? It's a very strong move so far. I certainly was not expecting this strong of a move. When we look at the icebergs, this is another example of icebergs setting up shop. The second price starts to get a good rally going, all these icebergs have now disappeared and they're just smashing into the market. I will say that, at least from Binance, we're not seeing that many market buys coming in, at least relative to the market sells. Ooh, we're getting a bit of a flood coming in right now. This thing's pumping. That's a little bit concerning, but it makes me think that liquidity providers and market makers are being a bit more aggressive on the bid side of the books. Maybe a little bit more lax on the ask side of the books. So that certainly is a recipe for Bitcoin to fly a lot easier. And we could see some fireworks. There's not too much on the local right now. From a price perspective, it would be above 92 is where we'd see the first set of fireworks come in. But I don't know if it's going to be too significant. We'll have to see, but that's what the price is dictating. As far as the liquidation heat maps, we don't really run into deeper short sell clusters until we get a bit higher. There is one, as you can see here, at 92, and then it gets a bit bigger above 94. So anytime we squeeze out these shorts, we just want to observe the price action. But based off the structure and keeping it simple, because this was already done, the fact that we've now returned to it means that it's a break of the local bearish structure, which means that we should get a high higher than this high. It doesn't have to happen immediately. It's obviously not guaranteed, nothing is in the market, but the fact that the local bearish structure is broken, and you got all these invalidations, you got a bunch of people shorting in the same spot, it looks like we're going to sweep higher before maybe going lower. Take it one step at a time, but yeah, like I said, as far as today is concerned, it's kind of, it could work if you want to just join the rally and try and punt into a long, but it's a bit too it's a bit far from the relative lows to look for any comfortable trades right now. What we want to see is either taking out the top side to potentially give a short opportunity, or for this bad boy to retrace a bit, and then looking at around 90,000, 150. These are still 89K still on the table as well, but it's not as important anymore, particularly because it's also sitting in the fucking void, right? Like I said earlier, both these scenarios, price moved very quickly. Didn't spend a lot of time consolidating, which means that it's less likely that market participants, like for instance, we moved up very quickly, right? So it's less likely that we'll find demand, because there's not, what logically could you see in the chart that would lead you to buy in an area like that, because there was no period of consolidation. So hold this on a retrace, good to go to break the top. Fail this on a retrace, go down and test the structure, and you'd want to see like a slow crawl down there. You don't want to see like a fast drop, although that is a possibility because there's a void here. But if we start to see like a slow drip down, that's actually really impressive considering that there is a void. And then seeing a reversal from 85.6. This was never tested, so and this was never tested. So the structure, it was a pretty rapid move up, right? We didn't really have a lot of time to retest all the different areas of the structure to see whether or not there was good bullish fluidity, or whether or not the bulls had as much control. But certainly when a move like this comes out of the market, it's very hard to ignore the fact that the bulls have had a nice rally. I'm just a little concerned that a lot of the fuel on this rally is coming from short squeezing, at least from what I'm seeing in the Binance order books. Like I said, I would have liked to see a little bit more market buying on the spot market relative to the amount of market selling we've seen. It leads me to believe that, a good amount of this is coming in from the derivative market getting squeezed out. So just a lot of people short selling Bitcoin, getting really aggressive on the short selling of Bitcoin, and tagging them out. And then we'll see whether or not there's an imbalance of supply and demand. The best case scenario for the bulls would be squeezing out above 93, right, all the way up to 94, and just clearing all of this out. And then if we see a lot of market buying coming into the spot market, that would be and obviously holding it above there, that would be perfect conditions for us to go on a bigger run than just this. It means that the rally could have even more legs to it. Usually price doesn't go straight up, but it's crypto, it could happen. but I don't like to chase these kind of moves straight up. If we start to see a pullback, like I said, the area to pay attention to right now is 90,150, and you don't just want a straight shot down there, but the volatility is pretty high, so it's not the end of the world. If we do see like a wick into that area and then a reversal, that'd be okay. But the reason why that area is important is because this is where all the longs got swept out. So this is where the liquidity started to come in on the sell side of the market. It's not as pretty of a structure as I've seen. It's actually kind of hard to identify it. And I'm not as confident in this one in particular as I have been in other ones, but that is technically the next spot to look for. And then if you want to get really cheeky, you can look here, but you know, yielding to these higher time frame levels where we saw other longs get squeezed out, you could look here depending on what it gives you, but you know, we went straight up, so there, you run the possibility of going straight back down. Like I said, there's not a lot of rationale as to why buyers would step in that area. But I've seen it happen, right? I've seen it happen plenty of times. It's just not something that I assume will happen. Because like, look at these previous examples, right? Bitcoin went straight up, created a void here. When we re-entered the void, we went straight down. When we went straight down, Bitcoin created a void. When we went back into it, we went straight up. So it just, you know, there's not a lot of reasons as to why people would step in and buy and sell in these areas. Okay, so Bitcoin is pumping quite nicely today. I'm gonna mark out where we see the fireworks. We could see them at any moment here. So you could see a flood of orders hit the books right now on the right side of your screen. We need to get, you know, it's 92 flat, but ideally want to get based off the relative volatility at least up to like 92.2, and we'll start to see those orders roll in. And keep in mind, a lot of the orders that we're going to see rolling in are likely going to be short sellers getting squeezed. So it's going to look like a lot of green is coming in, but that doesn't necessarily translate into people buying actual Bitcoin. If they do, then that's really good news, right? But we don't know if that's going to happen until it does. Okay, so the S&P, another day of floating along, but this is not necessarily a bad thing because it means that the VIX is trailing low. I commented last week that the VIX bull structure got broken, which is technically bullish for the S&P 500. So because the volatility index structure on the bottom got broken, there's a good chance that we're going to go lower than 14. And if we do, that means obviously the S&P is going to rally to new all-time highs. And then if Bitcoin can get something started here, it certainly has the benefit of the bullish market sentiment coming in from the legacy markets. So to put that in simple terms, the volatility index structure on the bottom broke, which means there should be lower volatility overall in the S&P 500. I don't know for how long. I don't like to time it. Maybe a couple weeks to a month in an optimistic scenario, and then we'll reassess it when we get closer. And if the S&P is geared to pump, then liquidity providers and market makers inside the crypto space are likely to be leaning a little bit more bullish, so supporting the bid side of the book a bit stronger and a little bit more hesitant on the sell side of the book. And this is applicable to pretty much most cryptos, at least ones that are like top 50 cryptos. Okay, are we going to see the flood right now, Biddy? You want to give it to us, Biddy? No? It's going to tease us? Okay, we can't talk about it. Just nobody talk about it, and then we'll see if it does it. Let's talk about some other legacy stuff, though. So, sorry, it's just if we go above this line a little bit more, we could see a pop. There, see it? Look, the flood come in. You see it? There's the pop. You're watching it happen live. There's the pop. Now it needs to hold. Okay. All right, we'll let that cook on the side right now. Let's talk about gold. So gold has hit the, unfortunately with gold, it's, the structure's not looking as good right now. You know, it is following the plan, but this is not a good area for gold to fail on the price. now there's an opportunity to, obviously, there was an opportunity earlier, but that was only the local test, so there's an opportunity for the high time frame test to hedge against gold holdings at around 42.50. Because when we built the structure on gold, we wanted to see a big move here. It was fine that it wasn't a big move off the jump, but the fact that it eventually failed back into the range is a really bad sign. It can rebuild the structure, but it probably won't do so until we get a bit lower. An area you could look for is here at 41.50. This would be an optimistic scenario, but if it doesn't hold that, unfortunately, most of the bottom side structure has been tested, so we'd have to see some sort of divide intervention in the void or something like that. So either hold 41.50 or create some new structure that could convince me otherwise in this void here, which it has some room to breathe in the void to do that. I just don't like to assume that it will until I start to see that structure form, and then I can be a little bit more confident in it. That was a weird RS flip on Biddy. Yeah, I mean it's fighting to be able to hold it right now. This is a pretty important spot, or at least one of the first important spots to see if it'll actually hold it. Okay, decent amount of market buying coming in. Nothing too crazy though. At least on Nance, the market buying really hasn't been too crazy relative to the selling. But we saw a lot of buying across the board today in multiple exchanges. So market makers definitely shown up in a big way today. Seeing it on Bitfinex, Coinbase, some of the other big exchanges as well, paired with Binance. But it's not necessarily enough. Remember, most of the coins are still in the hands of the individuals, so we'll have to still take it one step at a time. All right, silver still looks great, man. Can't complain. You could argue there's some bear div forming here. It doesn't look like the cleanest bear div to me. And when given all the context of the silver move so far, yeah, it could come in, but if it does come in, what does that mean? It means that we look for the low that created it. So still bullish on silver. It's probably likely we just go get another all-time high, but if we don't, the area that you want to pay attention to, which is kind of critical on silver, and the reason why I'm confident is because I've seen this exact same thing happen on silver 2 times in the past, and it actually just weathered the storm perfectly. And it has even more room to breathe on this go than the 2 previous times. So we'll see, but you technically made like an insignificant higher high here on silver. Like when we went for it again on silver, why was it so minuscule compared to the previous moves that we've seen based off the relative volatility, right? So that just formed, the relative strength, showing a little bit of weakness, at least for the time being. So we map out the highs and then double check them on RSI, which you can see price made higher highs, RSI made lower highs. Now, I'm not saying this is a good opportunity to short it. It would be a good opportunity to potentially long it. So the lows that created it are down here, right? We actually have stack liquidity down here too. So if it does decide to dump, we'd want to see something like this, caught in the void, taking out the low that created it, retesting it, and then sending it to new all-time highs. But if we see something like this, then that would definitely put the brakes on the silver rally quite dramatically. I don't really see that happening unless the S&P does a quite significant dump, but it's possible, I guess. I guess with the way gold is trading right now and the relationship between gold and silver, with gold looking a bit weaker and sort of breaking that structure a bit, it can certainly have negative ramifications on silver. But even as we're seeing today, right, gold is down 1.2% and silver's not down today. Silver's actually up a little bit. Not much, but it's up, right? So I'm not saying that they're decoupled. There is still a relationship between the two and how they trade. But just seeing that kind of strength come in is certainly a good sign. So keep an eye on gold, keep an eye on silver and the S&P as usual. And then let's see what happens here, because I think this is going to, if we do go sub 56, then depending on what happens under there, I think it's a good opportunity to add on. Or maybe we don't need to go under there and we can just send it, because silver has just been such a fucking beast. But yeah, so if we do go low here, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You really don't want to do that, but there is some, you don't want to do that, but there is a way that you can rebuild it. It would look really bad if that happened. Okay, the dollar. Plan has not changed for the dollar. I don't even know why I show this chart. because the plan hasn't changed for months, but there's the update to the chart. We'll just look at it real quick. Still the same plan. Oil, still the same plan. Same boat as the dollar. Yeah, nothing has really changed on that. Remember, long-term bearish on oil, but certainly could see a rally come in that would just lead to being able to add on to shorts at a higher price. Okay, we continue to see the bond market globally in a sort of a sell-off. Not just the United States, right? Japan, Australia, and a lot of other bond markets around the world. Yield is going up. The US is still the big dog. So there is some effect from smaller economies that will have certain effects on the US bond market for sure. But I still think that the yields are going to come down. I mean, certainly with the rates being cut soon and the QE starting, it's likely that, I mean, we could get a little kick up just from market participants within the bond market, but ultimately I think the yield should come down. And if it doesn't, that's a major fucking red flag, but it should come down. The reason being is because you've got, the Fed trying to knock it down, and not being able to do that would be pretty historic. But I don't think that normally how it plays out, we'll see the yield come down. Mag 7's kind of floating along today. Tesla's getting beaten up probably the most on the Mag 7. Yeah, and the rest of it's green for the most part. Netflix is a little bit red today, but MicroStrategy's up. So if you want to short squeeze JP Morgan and a lot of other market participants, gotta pump MicroStrategy. All right, so that's an update on Legacy. If you're a crypto guy only, you made it through the Legacy market, but just keep in mind the reason why we look at it and the importance of it, because obviously it has effects on almost every market, at least any big market. Okay, so Ethereum's kind of in the same boat as Biddy. In both these scenarios, on both Ethereum and Bitcoin, the good news is, based off the relative volatility, I wouldn't classify this as equal lows. It got pretty fucking close, but still looks good. So if this got a little bit lower and did the same thing that's doing now, that would be really spooky, because then we would create fragile market structure on the bottom. That wasn't the case. And the same thing can be said on the Bitcoin daily chart as well. And similar to where the Bitcoin chart is, we have the same amount of stack liquidity on Ethereum. It's a little bit more spread out in this sort of area, but the same first area to look for, which is 3080. And then we want to see if there's something like this that happens, which would be quite unfortunate. It would mean that we're going to go make a new low and actually break a lot of the structure. But if it can hold, then yeah, of course we can go higher. But that's an area to pay attention to. And then if it can hold and we do go higher, we didn't really have any proper tests here at 3485. So that could be an area where we could see some turbulence come in on Ethereum. And then besides that, on the way up, a lot of this stuff is done. So that's good news. You had more of the local test on this one, and you've got some breathing room. So the next area would look something like this. Unless you're trading like the support turn resistance type things, which is pretty good on Ethereum, but I don't really see that working out as well this time around. So sticking to the normal principles, not really deviating from them. So first spot is here. If we can hold it, next spot is here. If we don't see a strong rejection here, or if we see a hold lower after seeing a strong rejection, then we can go for this. If we go for this, next stop is the moon, because there's a bunch of fragile market structure all the way up after that. So getting higher than 4,000 again, unless a bunch of new data comes in months from now, that would steer my opinion otherwise. It's likely that Ethereum will do really well, but I don't know that yet. I still have to let that data come in, and we still have a lot of steps to go, right? We still need to see what happens here. If this is no bueno, Ethereum breaks down. If this is no bueno, then there's a chance that we rebuild the structure here. But if that doesn't break down, then we go low as well. So there's up arrows and there's down arrows, and anytime I circle, it's usually indicating where these decision points are taking place, or where I think stack liquidity is resting. ETH Bitcoin chart. Yeah, the ETH Bitcoin chart is actually pretty surprising. It's done quite well. Despite all the dumping that's coming in, it's still holding the structure, which is pretty fucking impressive, right? Obviously this didn't hold, but we held the bigger structure so far. It's pretty sloppy, but I mean, it still counts as holding it. You know, if we see a rally here on Ethereum against Bitcoin while Bitcoin's rallying, that's going to be pretty fucking impressive. I know I sound really bullish right now, but you know, keep in mind, still going to be pretty stringent and conditional on these rallies, right? It's no surprise that there's going to be rallies in a quote-unquote downtrend, and maybe they have legs to them. Maybe they lead to something bigger, but I'm still going to be, you know, like always, pretty conditional on whether or not that's going to be the case. And so if we do pump pretty high, you know, it's an opportunity to hedge a bit higher. Then if we keep pumping, we go to the moon, and the hedge is getting validated, and the spot bags pump and the longs pump. So we'll see how that goes, but at this point, obviously, it's a strong fucking rally today. I don't think anybody can doubt that. I think it's, you know, there's probably a multitude of reasons as to why people think it was such a strong rally, but you know, just from the simple approach in the chart is just looking at, okay, well, we went straight down, so why, if we do enter here again, why would people be selling? Like, what data are they using to sell here? There's not really much, right? I mean, there's this, which I talked about as a potential, but if you looked at the low time frame, there really wasn't much. I mean, it bounced off of it for like a couple minutes, but you know, it ran right through without even getting like a 15-minute close below or anything like that. This was an opportunity, and I mentioned that it was going to be a hard one to grab, even if it gave it to us. But yeah, the long that I was skeptical of yesterday, that I'm sure some of you guys took anyways, obviously did pretty good. There's been a lot of buzz around Solana lately. I don't know, to me personally, the Solana chart doesn't look too good based off how I read structures. I'm not trying to be a hater towards Solana, it just doesn't look good. But there's been a time in the past that Solana has done some things that have been where it doesn't look good and it actually ends up doing really good. So if you remember from last stream, that structure stuff I was talking about here, where you have like equal lows and you have shorts in different spots, so most of the clusters to the bottom side, but then Solana just fucking rallied. So that's a silver lining, that I haven't really seen this kind of structure form on such a high time frame in crypto, and not you know, take out the lows first. But so it's just an example of Solana not following my approach, or maybe my approach not being as effective on Solana, which would be good for the obviously good for the Solana bulls in the chat, because I still think the structure looks really bad on Solana, but I could be wrong about that, and I'm showing you an example of where I would have been wrong in the past on that, which is, you know, don't really see that kind of stuff happen in crypto that happened on Solana, so same thing could still be true. But as it stands, it's, in my opinion, it doesn't look good. If you want to be a bit more aggressive with it, you can look here. Sort of marry the two together, but it's pretty much right there. So more aggressive of a short, and then if you want to be even more aggressive, and this you're gonna have to pay attention to what Bitcoin's doing because it's more local, is to wait for these highs to be taken out and then go for the lows. But if Solana can manage to get through all of this downward arrows that I have placed, then of course, yeah, they can certainly pump. It's possible. Oh, I meant to stay zoomed in on the Bitcoin chart. It's actually holding above it quite well. It tried to push it right here, but I don't even think we got an hourly close below, right? No. So, we're watching a battle on the top side here on BitE. It's a pretty contentious spot, but still in sort of a hold your horses scenario when it comes to looking to short it just yet. Because the strength is really coming in today. No doubt about that, right, boys? I mean, across the board, the strength is coming in. Alright, so Dogecoin is following the plan nicely so far. It's a bit messy, similar to Solana, but it's good enough. So we're in multiple tests of the green box. We should be looking for the high that created it, particularly with how Bitcoin's trading. And the difference between Solana and Doge is, might be hard to see this, let me zoom in. Doge actually made a lower low, whereas Solana pretty much made equal lows, which is what you didn't want to see. So no equal lows on Bitcoin, no equal lows on Ethereum, equal lows on Solana, which is bad, and lower low on Doge, which is actually good because we sweeped out the long leverage and we didn't fall off a cliff. So that means that it's likely that we're going to go for the high that created it at least, which is above 15.7. So we'll see what happens above there. If there's weakness, and depending on what Bitcoin's doing, then that could be an area to look to short it. It is rather aggressive, but it's certainly a possibility depending on what Bitcoin's doing. Yeah, there's a decent amount of data behind this move, Tom. I agree with that. So it's not just the divergence, it's also mainly looking at how Bitcoin's behaving as well. But I would agree, yeah, it's getting real close to having too much data to where I wouldn't even look at it. But when you pair that with mainly leaning on how Bitcoin's doing, but also, you know, if the divergence is going to play out, then at least we know where to look as a potential reversal or pump it. XRP, you guys know I was bearish up here and didn't really want to be bearish, but XRP is kind of interesting because if you look at, I don't really love looking at this kind of stuff, but if you look at like the higher time frame and you see the divergence on the monthly, it's technically already played out. We took out the low that created it and XRP didn't fall off a cliff. That's pretty impressive. Sol, I just looked at Sol, man. It'll be in the recordings. It's not that clean of a divergence. I don't really love monthly divergences, but regardless of the divergence, at least it has cleared out all the long liquidity and didn't, you know, die afterwards, showing that there is demand there still. The chart where it's at right now is a bit tricky. Like the fluidity is not too bad, but it's a bit tricky. It honestly looks pretty good. It's just you had kind of a deep dive into here, so that shows that, well, the bulls did show strength. It wasn't the greatest victory for them, but I mean, you've got all these fucking stacked highs all the way up, and you keep taking out long liquidity without taking out short liquidity. You know, as long as Bitcoin's doing pretty good, XRP actually looks like it could go for it. So not too bad on XRP. What about Hype? Isn't there a huge short seller on Hype right now that they've been trying to quote unquote go after, but they haven't been able to do it? Yeah, I don't trade Hype, so I'm looking at this for the first time in weeks, at least a week or so. It's a decent amount of data, but it's pretty good. We got almost equal lows. Yeah, it's pretty close, isn't it, Tom? That's already done though, and that's pretty much already done, and that's done. It's not as clean, but it's all done. Yeah, there's a world where this makes a comeback, but if and when it starts to make a comeback, you want to pay attention to what happens above this high. Similar to the Dogecoin, it's kind of hard to see, but it did make a lower low. So it's taken out all the long market participants, made the lower low. Now looking for the high that created it, which potentially could give you another opportunity to short it. If we break this down structurally, just take it one step at a time, right? There's obviously a lot of fucking levels to look for because there's so many previous highs here. But I mean, most of it's pretty much done. You could get something like this, or something like this. But if you don't get either of these, then the fact that it's already done would mean that testing any higher would actually break the bear structure. So say like we get right here, there's a good chance that we can just go for a high higher than this high. So if we can manage to get to this circle, there's a good chance that we're going to go make an all-time high. But we need to get through this stuff first, which is the good news with this one is there's no high time frame confluency, so it's a little bit lower likelihood that it'll work out. And then this is the major one here. So major test, if the bulls win that, then new all-time high, because the whole bear structure breaks. On Fartcoin, did you guys hear that Wintermute sold all their Fartcoin? That's the rumor going around right now. But yeah, man, for the most part, when it comes to that kind of stuff, I can look at it if you want, but I don't think it's good to, because then people will be like, oh, he says that Fartcoin looks good, I'm gonna go buy a Fartcoin. And like, I don't think anybody should be buying that. Nothing against the Fartcoin community, because I would say the same about any meme coin besides probably Doge, and even Doge to some extent, but just meme coins in general. Not necessarily a huge fan of them. Not to say that they're bad or anything like that. Again, it's nothing personal. It's just, obviously, it's the financial instrument's name is Fartcoin, right? That's already. I mean, who knows, man? Who knows? More power to you guys over there on the meme coins. Certainly could happen, but yeah. Oh, fuck it. I beat it up enough. Let's look at Fartcoin. Oh god, I wish I wouldn't have opened this chart. Because now I'm gonna be kind of mean, and I don't want to be mean. I was just mean to it. So you have a couple things happening here, right? You have the don't worry, bro. Fartcoin has support. It's not gonna go under it because look how many times it's held on the support. But on the inverse of that, you actually have the new meta, which is equal lows leading to a big move. So while it looks dumpy, it doesn't look like a good area to short it. In fact, the only play really looks like to long it. But is it a good long? It's not the best one. So everybody has the same stop loss, right? Everybody has the same invalidation that they picked out in their head. Even if they don't have a stop loss in the market, they certainly are looking at 19 as an area that needs to hold because it's held in the past. And then how many of those people will just press the red button without a stop loss if we go below that? But like I said, the last couple of years, man, we've been seeing these equal lows hold and lead to something big. Who knows how big, but it doesn't negate the fact that it's still fragile market structure. Similar to Hype though, it's a bit sloppy on the bear side and most of it's already done. So it's a good sign. If we, well, first off, we have to get through all these highs. If we can get through these highs, we went straight down, and there's no high time frame confluence, which means that there's a good chance that if we can hold above here, we're just gonna send it back up. And then if it fails this, then you know, Fartcoin's done though. But if it can pass this test, then there's a chance it can break the rest of the bear structure and actually make a recovery. The volume is still kind of lackluster, but that could change in the future depending on what happens in the action. But yeah, man. See if we can get above the highs. See if we can hold that, then go for the ultimate test. And then it's got some room to run. If not, then doom. Because you've got all the same people with the same idea. Which is above the price, buy it, or sorry, above the line, we buy it. We think Fartcoin's good. Below the line, we think Fartcoin's bad. We sell it. That's sort of the collective hive mind right now. So you don't really want to put that to the stress test, otherwise it could break. All right, that's enough looking at these degenerate fucking altcoins. Bitcoin is still fighting for it here, boys, but it looks like it's struggling a bit. We don't have the hourly close for another 15 minutes, so that's good. We can still fight for this here. I'm bidding to maybe potentially go a bit higher. The market buying coming in is still lackluster, but it just seems to have a lot of support from market makers and liquidity providers. And there's not really many icebergs setting up yet. If we start to consolidate, I wouldn't be surprised if we see icebergs, because like look at the past, right? You know, like we dump, we get the consolidation of icebergs, we pump, we get the consolidation of icebergs on the other side, a dump, orders set up on the buy side, and then if we start to consolidate a bit higher, like up into this region, then we could start seeing the same thing, icebergs on the top side. But that hasn't come in yet, so we'll see how high this thing can fly, and then see if any icebergs actually end up setting up shop afterwards. What the fuck is that? This is showing resting orders in the books, the Binance spot books. So Binance against Tether spot books, resting orders. Which Binance spot books are obviously Binance volume spot is the biggest. What time frame is this? 1 hour. What a name. Yeah, when I first said his name, I thought it was kind of weird saying it, but I don't know. I think I'm overthinking it, right? The name in the chat that just said sorry. Say it out loud right now. Say that name. Doesn't it sound a bit weird to say it? The green name in the chat. Has today been a good day for the Bulls? Do you think this is a dead cat bounce? It's possible. That's why we need to watch it. I'm still going to be stringent on the rallies. Not that I want to be, but just based off everything that's happened. Now, the good news is the local bear structure broke. Pretty much in the last hour, it just broke. Well, last 2 hours it broke. You can argue it actually broke here, but as we got closer to it, it's pretty much confirmed that it broke. So what that means is we should get a high higher than this high before we go for a low lower than this low. And the question that happens afterwards is important. And it doesn't mean that we should just do it right now, right? It doesn't mean that we're just gonna go for it right now. It's possible, but I already got a lot on the day, right? This thing is already pump ticking them out. Doesn't mean it can't pump more. It's a bit too aggressive, in my opinion, to add on here. And then if we do get a pullback, then you'll look here. But because the bearish structure broke on the local, it means that we should be able to get, maybe a little bit more than just a dead cat bounce. I'm not saying it's going to be the rally to take us to all-time highs. Well, that is possible. I don't know yet. Nobody knows yet. So yeah, we're just going to take it one step at a time. And I'm still going to be conditional on these moves because we already saw bad fluidity coming out of the market for the Bulls, which is when we tested 89 and broke below it quite significantly. So it shows that basically the Bulls are winning the fight right now for this, but it has been a messy fucking fight. So if one side wins a fight and it's a messy fight, it's harder for me to be confident that they're going to win the next fight. That's all. But they are winning it so far. It's just, sometimes it's just nicer to have these clean, decisive victories. That way it's a lot easier to be bullish, and I don't have to be as stringent and conditional about the rallies that we see. I don't have to be, can just be Mr. Pump It Up, man. But I can't do that until I see the tide starting to shift a little bit more. The fact of the matter is we're above 89K, which is important. But I mean, this was a mess. So I've seen messy battles lead to winning wars, but from a probabilistic standpoint, it just makes it a little bit less likely. And actually, decently less likely because of how messy it was. Nice thing is though, Ethereum took a beating as well, but it was good enough that we didn't make equal lows, which is important. Messi, yeah, the soccer player. Yep, that's what I was talking about. Or football. I just triggered half the chat. All the Europeans just got triggered from me calling it soccer. Thoughts on prop firms? I don't know too much about prop firms. I've heard mixed reviews on them. So, like anything in finance, there's good actors and there's bad actors. I'm sure that the rumors about some of these prop firms being a little bit scummy is probably true because I've heard it pretty consistently. I don't know for sure though. And then yeah, I'm sure there's also good prop firms out there too. I mean, the most ideal scenario would be actually trading live, right? Money, not some of the prop firms. You're not actually trading the money they give you. You're like simulating trading, if that makes sense. So a prop firm will be like, oh, you're a good trader, here's $1 million, go trade for me. But you got to trade on my platform and stuff like that. And you want to make sure that the money that they're giving you, you're actually placing onto the market and trading it. Otherwise it could be, I think most prop firms are more simulated, and that's where it kind of has a bad name. America's football, you filthy American. Aren't you in the US, youth? Like the last time we talked, you said you were like in San Diego or something. Or you visited San Diego. Maybe just for a vacation, I don't know. Ronaldo's better. Are you an undercover American posing as a European to fit in with half the chat, youth? Yeah, I'm not getting into the fucking Ronaldo Messi debate, dude. I really don't care who you think is better. I know it's a heated topic, but yeah. Alright, Bitcoin is still kind of struggling here. This is still an important battle that we're watching, by the way. You're going to continue to see good amount of orders roll in because here, let me put it on the high time frame side by side so you can see the importance of it. So the previous short that I talked about was from here, which was good fluidity for the bears, but now it's being challenged by the bulls. So that short, if they had invalidations here, is being under fire. If we go a bit higher, we'll see another flood come into the market, most likely. But if we fail this, it's not the end of the world. It just means that we might have to go a bit lower before we go higher, or at least see how the market's going to react a bit lower. And that's going to be around here, because underneath that is a void, and underneath that it gets a bit spooky depending on what kind of action we see. And there's a good chance we could see a lot of volatility to the downside just because we went straight up. Oh, you live in the US, but you're from Europe. Okay. Can you take a look at CRV, daily fluidity holding like Doge, but it's kind of sketchy locally? Sure. CRV is such a disappointment. It had so much promise, and it could still do it. I mean, when it comes to like, even like near Rune, CRV, like they could all make a massive comeback if we actually get an alt season, because their volume is just so much better than all the other ones' volumes, but all the alts have just been getting absolutely slaughtered left and right, so. Yeah, it's pretty, this is actually more similar to XRP than Doge. What are do you want to send a chart over, Tom, so I can see what you're looking for here? Also, you traded the fuck out of CRV for a while, right? So you might be more inclined to want to trade it because you've done well on it. That's something you want to be careful of. There's nothing wrong with wanting to trade something that you've done well with. But at the same time, you don't want to get too married to it. But I'll look at it if you want. I mean, the issue is technically you've won the battle, but you have equal lows. It's really close to whether or not I'd call that equal lows. Usually when it's that close, I don't touch it, I don't trade it. But obviously you asked for it, so I'm gonna try my best here. It's really close to equal lows, so I would just lean on the side of caution and say that it is. Not the end of the world that it is though. You got equal highs here, which is a good sign. I'm gonna have to zoom in a bit more here, but I mean, it's technically holding, so I'm just marking out some stuff and then I'll zoom in. The volume is still good on this bad boy, obviously. Let me just zoom in a bit here. Okay. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, right, Tom? I see what you want here, I think. I'll open your chart in a second, but what I see is this. The only issue with this is that there's a resistance here. So if it breaks, well, I guess your invalidation is clear, but even testing that could technically break the structure. So it's just a bit spooky. Like in these kind of scenarios, I would just be hands off and not risk anything on it because I'm not really confident. But long term still looks good based off the volume analytics. And to be fair, you have been taking out long positions without taking out short positions, right? That's a good sign. If they can get the ball rolling here and the structure starts to look a little bit more straightforward, then I can be a little bit more on board with it. I see the vision, it's a bit spooky where it's at. It could certainly go make another low before actually having its pop off. Again, it's going to depend heavily on what Bitcoin's doing, so. But let me bust out the TD trend lines. Okay, so all you gotta do here, Tom, is you gotta wait for it to get above this trend line, and then it'll moon. As sarcastic as that sounds, there was actually a time in, let's see how OG you guys are in the chat. There's a time in 2018 where a guy named Crypto Rand, does that name ring a bell? Crypto Rand, I believe was the name. He called like almost every single altcoin rally back then. He got pretty big on Twitter as a result of it. But all he would do is just place trend lines like this. And then when the price got like above the trend line here, he would tweet it and it would just fucking bump. But you know, I don't really care for trend lines. I'm just saying that if this altcoin rally is reminiscent of 2018, it'd be funny if the trend lines also make a comeback at the same time. Gonna have to respect the trend lines if that's the case. All right, let me open up your chart. I don't know why it keeps flagging me for deals when I already pay for the thing. Yeah, it doesn't. A front runner liquidity, you do have room to breathe, so it would be technically it would be. Let me just make sure I'm marking this out right. What time frame are you on? Daily? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're looking for. So it would actually be a slide into liquidity, and then doing something like this. And if it can do that, it's not the best tag, but it makes sense because you have a front runner here, right? So you have a bunch of longs that are dogpiled in the same spot, getting invalidated at the same time while testing a very important level that comes to us from March of earlier this year, which usually leads to a slide. But if the fluidity is really good after that, like we see that, yeah, that looks like a really nice trade. I have to see what it looks like as we get closer to it, but if all those things play out in that order, then I could definitely see this working out pretty nicely. You want to see a little bit more volume come in because it's been tapering, but that's pretty good. That's a much better idea, to be fair. Thanks. It's just, you see why? It's just because of all the invalidations here. Now it could pop from here as well, but if you want to be more passive and hands off, then you'd be waiting for this. Like if you didn't care what this financial instrument is, and I'm sure a lot of the chat don't care at all, like it's CRB, some of you know about it, some of you don't, most of you probably don't trade it, but if you have no, like if you're not married to the altcoin, then you can just wait for like just a perfect setup or don't touch it, because there's multiple altcoins you can trade. I will say that with CRB, like I said a bit earlier, if this thing does start to do the right things, I think it can be a home run because of the volume that's come in. Built 2 RAM kits about 3 months ago, easy 300% gain. What do you mean, Nail? Yeah, so like another leg, exactly. Do you still consider the resistance level even though it breached it? Oh, there's a Trump speech right now. Is he talking about crypto? We can put him on if he's talking about crypto, but he might not be. M7, what area? Here? You talking about here? No, it's still valid even if it's gone through it. Yeah, it's still valid even if it's gone through it. Every support resistance support flip is, the price is gonna have already gone through it. All right, we have 1 hourly close below on Biddy. It wasn't a 4-hour close, but we have our first hourly close below, which is not good. And we don't have a bottom wick yet. Okay, this could dump. Let's see. That's a pretty good reaction so far, though, after sweeping the equal lows. Ooh, we got a small little iceberg setting up here, but I don't really trust those too much until they've had a lot more conviction on them. Did you see the CZ tweet? CZ always tweets bullish stuff though, doesn't he? He's always got bullish tweets coming out. What did he say? Like all-time highs soon or something like that? I think that's pretty standard issue of him. Again, one of the beauties of the market is nobody knows for sure where it's going to go, even CZ. And, you know, that can be frustrating, but it's also... Like, Binance has some control over the market, for sure, in conjunction with the market makers that work closely with them. When it comes to Bitcoin, though, they don't have as much. Like, let me give you an example. Let's look at what happened when they attacked the medium-sized market makers. And Larry Fink, classic Fink out. Okay, so this here on Bitcoin was the October 10th flash crash. That giant red candle that came in. Now let's look at a shitcoin, but not that small of a shitcoin. Like, it, you know, had a decent amount of, I don't know the exact market cap of it. By the way, it's playing out right now, but it's fairly big. It's in the billions, right? Look at the difference. So this is the same date that happened. So October 10th, right? I can adjust it a little bit, but it's the same day that it happened. Do you see how much more dramatic the relative price movement was on when the Fire Nation attacked, when Binance attacked? I mean, this thing went down to you know, a tenth of a penny. I'll get rid of the lines now so you can see it more clearly what the candle looks like, but you see how much more of an effect that Binance and Wintermute and liquidity providers have on these smaller coins relative to Bitcoin. I guess that was a big move on Bitcoin, but just because Binance wants it to go to the moon or something, they don't have that much control over that occurring. They have some effect on it, certainly on the downside here, but yeah. CZ saying that, I'm sure, you know, he believes that, and he might be right, but as far as I'm concerned, there's no guarantee of it. And I tell you guys that all the time. Doesn't matter who says what, how many followers they have, how much money they have. If it's a big enough market cap, if it's a deep enough pool, there's no guarantees of anything. Now, I still think Bitcoin on the long term is good to go. It's just the question is, do we enter an extended period of the price going down? That's still on the table. It's still possible, of course, but I don't think Bitcoin goes to zero. And I'm sure at some point in the future it'll reach another all-time high. I think the big question is when in the future will it reach another all-time high? Will it be in the next financial quarter, or will it take a year? I think at max it'll take a year unless the stock market crashes. So at max it'll be underwater for a year. But it might not be for a year. There's some arguments out there that the 4-year cycle, the business cycle this time around is a little bit different. I'm an expert on understanding that side of the argument. It just clicked in my head when I read it. But there's some argument that we'll actually have a 5-year cycle. As you guys know, though, like, I don't care too much about cycles and stuff. Like 4-year cycle, 5-year cycle, I don't really care. If structure breaks, it breaks, and then I reevaluate. That's just how I've always done it. But there's always going to be narratives out there that are competing, right? There's always going to be competing narratives. And the beauty of the price is it doesn't really matter what everybody thinks. It's whatever the price is. Okay, Bitcoin's doing good. I don't think did we not get a bottom wick on this bad boy? And it's already 5 minutes into the open? That's interesting. Alright, we could get another flood that comes in. I don't like not getting a bottom wick, though. That's a little bit spooky. It's just an hourly. It's not a 4-hour, but... you know, the S&P's pumping, so it's definitely helping out Bitcoin. Tesla trying to push from the lows. The Tesla play is still working out nicely, yeah. You could look for a retest of 412. So a retest of 412 doesn't seem too crazy. It's hard for me to be confident since it's a common stock, so can't be as confident in the fluidity of it and whether or not it's going to follow the technicals. Obviously, it's done pretty well so far, but we'll have to see if it actually continues. Wow, are we making a triple top? Fucking triple top. No, but let's see if we can get some more action here if we go a bit higher. New all-time high, even for just a second, so people can't use that anymore would be nice. Oh, the 4-year cycle thing, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, Skinner said it would, if we start gaining the 92k area, he would flip net long, so it's a very important area. Yeah, I mean, I get the logic of that. It definitely looks a lot better if we can gain 92, but there's still a lot of road ahead that we have to sort of gauge as new price data comes in. What do you think about Elon's approach? Elon Musk predicts energy-based Bitcoin to replace money. He says money will disappear as energy becomes humanity's real currency. There's probably a lot of truth to that. I think it'll probably take longer for that transition to happen than most people would assume. Like, it's good to be optimistic about that kind of stuff, but in terms of like how fast will it happen, I think that's where everybody sort of disagrees. And I would usually err to the side that there's a little bit of exuberance when it comes to predicting those kind of things happening sooner than later. I don't disagree with the sentiment or the statement. That's likely going to be the truth, which is the real currency will be energy. As technology continues to advance. But is that going to happen in 10 years, 30 years, 100 years? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows. If everything goes to plan, maybe it'll happen in that quick amount of time, but what do we know about the real world? Not everything always goes to plan. So in a perfect world, yeah. And, who knows? Maybe by a little bit of luck, that'll happen sooner than later. I don't know how society is going to be, how we're going to shift society around if money disappears. That'd be fuck. That could go a million different skews. The thing about money and value and something outside of energy, it's just been the way humans have been since, it's like we've organized, right? Once we got out of the barter economy, once we had any kind of medium of exchange, even seashells in some instances, but anytime there's been a medium of exchange, just pretty much since the dawn of decently sized civilizations, we've relied on that medium of exchange. I don't like, how would you exchange energy from like peer to peer, like one person wanting to buy groceries from the grocery store with energy? I mean, I guess that would be Bitcoin, right? I guess that would be Bitcoin. But also, there's a lot of arguments there. Will quantum computing crack Bitcoin? And is Bitcoin the most efficient way to turn energy into currency? And does it matter if Bitcoin's the most efficient because it was a first mover advantage? And then you have to think about legacy. How long does legacy last? Because that's what Bitcoin is, right? There's no difference between Bitcoin and Dogecoin. Bitcoin just has legacy. Okay, maybe there's slight differences between them, but you get the point, right? Like, most cryptos, utility is just peer-to-peer transfer. People will say store of value. They didn't used to say store of value. Store of value is technically true, but anything can be a store of value as long as you have a cult behind it. Same thing with gold, silver, even any individual equity. But yeah, even the US dollar. It's just, what is the biggest cult? And what is that cult determined to be value? That's any financial instrument. Yeah. If crypto want to go far, first thing, wallets need to change. It's basic and still too complicated for older people to use. Yeah, I still think there's a pretty decent sized barrier to entry, but I also think that the industry is evolving quite rapidly to capture the demand of older people to be able to have more of a frictionless experience and having more user-friendly interface and stuff like that. That's where it's going to go. We might not be there now, but that's certainly where it's going to go. I mean, think about it, man. The boomers want fucking stable coins now. I mean, who would have thought that? When Tether first come around, did you think that, the boomers would have wanted stable coins? I certainly wouldn't have expected that. Wouldn't have predicted that. The biggest cult is the US dollar. That's pretty much true. You could argue gold's on its way to rival that, but yeah, US dollar and euro. Euro comes in at number 2. Bitcoin looking good? Yeah, I mean it's holding above. Did we actually get the bottom wick on it yet? Oh, we did. I was yapping too much. We got the bottom wick. Okay. So we had an hourly close below, which isn't the end of the world, but we have the next hourly is going to be the 4-hour, which is coming up. A 4-hour close below isn't guaranteed that it's going to dump, but you certainly would rather have the 4-hour close above if we are to continue this move without having to go lower first. By the way, going lower first isn't necessarily a bad thing, because in my opinion of where lower is at this point, or the first area we should see is at 90,000. The only, I guess, bad thing would be if we fail it, because if we fail it, then it could get really bad. So, the most optimistic scenario is not having to test it and just not having to undergo this because we run the risk of failing it. But what do you just expect this thing to go straight up back to the all-time high like that? This one big fucking green candle? How crazy would that be? Just one big fucking green dildo all the way back up to all-time highs. Oh my god, the markets would be shook if that happened. Max pain. Self-custody is also becoming a problem because more and more people are actually getting robbed and forced to give info, so being your own bank can also go south fast. Yeah, that's true. What banks do serve that purpose of security, right? But I mean, if you go down that pipeline, there's like ransom and there's all the other dark stuff that also exists. But in general, yeah, there's vaults that exist, right? There's a vault. If you have your Bitcoin on your ledger, you likely don't have a bank vault that you store it in. Best thing is probably a safety deposit box, but that's not the same thing as where they keep the gold, right? Like a Fort Knox type setup. Max pain is definitely to the upside. Yeah, I agree with that. Because the fear around the market is crazy right now, right? Fear in crypto is crazy. And maybe for a good reason, but there's certain times where, let's say you're bearish on Bitcoin right now, right? And you think Bitcoin's going to go under 80K. The market ebbs and flows a lot of the time. Usually you don't go straight down, you don't go straight up. So for the bears out there, it is possible that, maybe we come and revisit, 109 or potentially even higher, which would be the final test for the bears at 118. But why can't Bitcoin do this first? Squeeze out all the last second shorters and then do it. Or if it holds it here, then it would test here and then do the same thing. Or if it holds it here, then Bitcoin can do it. But like a straight shot down can happen in crypto, just like a straight shot up can happen. But from all-time high in October to 40K by December, that's asking for a lot. There are still some ebbs and flows, particularly with how much deeper liquidity is this time around. So if we look at previous years of price action on Bitcoin, I mean, the volatility was way fucking higher, way higher. You guys remember the older days of Bitcoin, volatility was nuts. Like a 10% day on Bitcoin was pretty normal. Whether it was up or down, 10% wasn't anything crazy. A 10% day now on Bitcoin is pretty noteworthy. Even today, we're up 6.5% on the 24-hour change, and this is a pretty big pump relative to what we've seen on daily moves. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people loaded up a good amount of Bitcoin at those lows. The people that loaded up the Bitcoin at those lows are also active market participants. You have Binance, Bitfinex, Wintermute, and a couple other big players. They're notoriously known as active market participants. Now, maybe this time is different. They're going to hold it the whole way up. That's possible. But if they're notoriously known for buying and selling actively, then it's hard to assume that the buying that came in doesn't come attached with selling at some point in the future. Can you look at Kaspa on Mexi? Rock the Kaspa. It's Cas, right? Sharif don't like it. Yeah, I mean, you fleshed out the lows there. I can do a fresh analysis on it though if you want. Okay, so volume's pretty solid. It's a good sign. Obviously, the bad sign is that it's dumping. Not only that it's dumping, but there's actually pretty good bearish fluidity on the way down. So, looking at areas in the past where short sellers got squeezed out of their positions, what transpired afterwards? Eventually, we found that all-time high. Volatility struck the market. Okay, and then when the bounce back happens, where do we see the first test? We see the first test where the most recent short sellers got squeezed out of the market. Okay, it dumped from there too, which shows good fluidity, which shows that the bears are in control. So we look at the next one, the one previous this one, which is here. Same thing, the bounce back happens. Where does it reject? Okay, and you can get fancier with it and like look at this kind of stuff too, but it's better to have more data behind it. Okay, so then we saw all the long market participants and all the spot buyers dogpiled in the same spot, basically saying that, okay, if this thing goes under 10 cents a share, I'm gonna sell it, or inversely thinking, don't worry, dude, it's not going to go under 10 cents a share. This thing is solid. It bounced off 10 cents a share multiple times. There's no way it's going to go under it. And then eventually it goes under it and we get frenzy on the market. The same sort of structure starts to build again, where we saw short sellers get squeezed out again after that dump. And then we see the retest of that. So short sellers get squeezed out. Why didn't price go higher? Instead, big volatility slams the market, and we look at it again. Okay, where's the retest where that liquidity was? And then bang, lower. So it's mounting a defense now. One of the other big things here is, you went straight up, right? So you don't have a lot of high time frame confluence outside of what we can see from October of 2023. Okay, so next thing we look at is where were the most recent lows where longs got squeezed out, just like we were looking at it for the shorts. And whether or not we're starting to regain it. So we're starting to regain it, which is a good sign. Obviously, the volume is still quite lackluster. The volume's still tapering off. That's not the biggest of deals because we could see more volume if it starts to kick up into bigger areas. This is already a good sign, though, seeing this much volume coming in based off the relative volume in the past. So that's actually a good sign. But the volume that's followed afterwards, a little bit spooky. So then we look at the local structure, like where could you wait? Let me zoom in. Yeah, we had the local test of it, but we never had like the high time frame test of it. And then we just had a front runner liquidity. So then we just mark all this out properly. Technically, it would be right there. So let me clean this chart up. Okay, so if we do get another rejection here at some point, the two main areas to hold, and probably the most important part to hold right now is at 4.7. So coming from this wick that came in on the 10th of October when Binance went down and everything crashed. Seeing a proper retest from there would be a green light to send it a lot higher. It might not give us this retest, but if it does and it holds, then that's a pretty good opportunity. The reason being is because on the other side of the market, we have all the short sellers in the same spot. If they had shorted Kaspa from the beginning of October this year to more recently, the end of November, then it's likely that their invalidations are at these highs or above them. So we have short sellers trapped in the same spot. If they had shorts from here or here, then on that move in November, they got wiped out, right? So these guys got wiped out, these guys wiped out. These guys did not get wiped out. And all the new shorts that would be sharing the same invalidation. Their silver lining is it went straight down. So there's really no logic for sellers to step in, at least based off from a technical perspective. There's no logic for sellers to step in above these highs, meaning that this is where we'll see a true test of supply and demand. If we can get above this, and hold it, then it's smooth sailing. But if we get above this and we fail it, what does that show? It shows that there's not a logical reason why sellers would step in here other than just the raw supply on the market. So it gives us an idea of what the supply and demand is. Basically, short sellers lose their position. When short sellers lose their position, we get a flood of market buys that come into the market. That flood of buys should kick us up into the void. If we cannot maintain it, it means that there was an imbalance of supply and demand that was created because of these short sellers getting squeezed. That's a bad sign. That means that we could potentially, depending on what happens, we could find a low lower than this low. But if we hold it, there's a lot of room to run. So one of the things that I talked about earlier about how most of this stuff is done, good fluidity. Well, the silver lining to that is if we return to it, then we can break the bearish structure. So let's say if we return back to 118, right? So pretty much, let's say we return back to 12 on Kaspa. That would mean that the structure here is broken, and we can get a high higher than this high. This is at 13, and then that'd be the next test. So what happens here? Same thing, right? Seeing the supply and demand. If it fails it, it's a way better area to fail it because we've got a lot of room to breathe at that point. We can rebuild structure. But in the optimistic scenario that it actually holds it, then testing this would mean that the bigger structure has broken. You can get an all-time high. So you can use the analysis that I just used on Kaspa on most crypto coins that are big market caps that have a lot of leverage in them. But as you can see from this chart, since it's less random how the price moves, I can infer that there's a decent amount of leverage that's pumped into to Kaspa. Maybe not, but at least there's fluidity to it. At least it's less random, and there's a rhyme and reason, somewhat rhyme and reason to the price movement. What's up, Reaper? Sideways? Maybe. I don't know too much about I don't really care to know too much about it, but because the reason why I'm curious is because this coin gets asked about all the fucking time, but I don't know, like, what is the utility? It kind of sounds cringy to even say that when talking about an altcoin, but like, what is the buzz? Like, why is this such a popular coin amongst retail, and what's the use case? Someone could just simplify it for me, because over the past year, this is one of the most asked for coins in the chat. I've never really bothered to give it a deep dive because it maybe isn't that big on the Binance books. Speculation, meme. Is it a meme coin? Is this a meme coin? Did I just do all that analysis for a meme coin? Whole market pumping. Meanwhile, my main stock I own decides to sell 50% of the company for cash. Yeah, Reaper, we're not in the era of good fundamentals in the stock market leads to outperforming the market. We're in exuberance mode. PE ratios are out of whack. What would be a good buy from a fundamental standpoint doesn't really matter as much right now. Normally it would matter, and it's important, but when you've just got all the money being dumped into the Mag 7, something that could be perceived as value, like a value buy based off of classic fundamental analysis on any individual stock, it just doesn't float right now, because this domain is dominated by greed right now. I mean, if you look at the crypto spot, right? We saw a huge rally in the meme coin markets these last couple years. Now, why the fuck are meme coins pumping, but your precious utility token that actually, makes money is not moving? Not to compare the Mag 7 to meme coins, but I'm just saying, like, it's an alpha market. It's alpha risk market, because the S&P is just fucking printing huge gains in these past couple years. You've got the interpretation that rates are going to be cut, which is going to stimulate the economy even more, which is theoretically should dump more fuel on the fire of this consolidation into the Mag 7. And we've seen this stuff happen in history, right? Look at like the Nifty 50 or the dot-com bubble, or I mean, you can look at any of them going back, but during these times of max exuberance, it's not necessarily about who knows how to analyze a balance sheet the best or fundamentals the best. It's buy the winner and keep dogpiling on it. Now, do I think that's good or bad? I don't know. It's probably bad because it leads to a big crash in the end, but I'm not in the business of saying, oh, it's good or bad that the Mag 7's pumping. I'm just in the business of making money from the market. And so I have to accept these realities, regardless if I think it's good or bad. But it's connected to the Mag 7? Yeah, but it can be connected to the Mag 7, but is it the Mag 7? It's the same thing with like Bitcoin, right? Like, what have we seen in Bitcoin dominance? Bitcoin dominance has been on the rise. Why? Because it has legacy. It's the winner. It's the winner of the crypto market. What is the Mag 7? It's the winners of the stock market. What is the gold? The winner of the precious metals market. Actually, silver's coming back, but historically gold's the winner. So we're in the era of exuberance, greed, and then dogpiling into whatever the winner is. Same thing with the dollar too. I mean, should the dollar be doing this well against the euro? From a technical perspective, it looks like it should, but I mean, fundamentals might argue against me. Maybe they believe that the euro should be priced higher against the dollar. But I don't concern myself with that kind of stuff too much, particularly in times like this when it's not as advantageous to and not pragmatic to spend a bunch of time trying to follow Ben Graham or the teachings of Ben Graham. I mean, we'll get to a point where that'll be very important again, but that's usually going to be after the crash. After the crash, that's when it becomes important, because then we go back to reality. Right now, we're in fucking frenzy, exuberant, greed, madman mode right now. But when we get back grounded into reality, then logic, when it comes to fundamental analysis, will bounce back. It's just not the playing field that's currently happening, so. Missed the start. What's the plan on? It's hands off right now. We want to see how this thing behaves on Biddy. So, no new trades as of right now, but there could be one very soon. The fact that we've already revisited here means that the bearish structure has shown cracks and it's starting to break. And I'm not talking about the whole bearish structure. I'm just talking about the bearish structure that we built in late March, so like a week ago, when we put this high in. Returning back to here means that there's a good chance that we'll get a high higher in this high. And I'm not saying it's going to happen right now. We might have to test low first. And if we do test low and we hold this, then we go for it. But we need to see good fluidity here. No messing around here at 90,000, 150. Call it 90,000. I'll give it a little bit of breathing room. So 90,000, I don't want to see any indecisive victories from the bulls, because that could lead to a big slide. And then a big slide. Last stand before sub 80 is here at 85.6. This is last stand before sub 80. I guess there's a world that it's not, but with the data that I have in front of me, that's how I see it. It could change if new structure starts to build and stuff like that. And then if we do pop the top, then we want to see how it behaves. Now, with the new shorts that you could potentially open at this point, they're going to be a little bit trickier, and it's because we don't have high time frame confluence in these areas. Because Bitcoin went down so quickly, and we don't have, historical areas to the left of the chart that haven't already been tested. We're kind of in an area where local structure is going to be printing the opportunities, and local structure printing the opportunities has a lower probability of success than higher time frame structure. We don't really get to the higher time frame structure playground until we get to like 109K, if we can get there. There's some other cheeky stuff here, but it's already done, right? So basically what that means is if we start popping highs and go for this or this, then we want to see how it behaves after, right? That could be a potential short opportunity. and then this could be a potential short opportunity. The probabilities are just a little bit lower because this data is coming to us from the middle of November instead of like looking at it like an area that's from the beginning of the year. So we're kind of, now that the bearish structure is sort of broke on the local, so like the later half of November structure and early December now, structure has broken. You know, it could be a little bit harder and trickier to grab short positions. Maybe this thing's got some legs to go a bit higher before short positions look as good. It doesn't mean that they can't work out, but you'd have to pay attention a lot more and actually monitor the local price action a lot more, because that's all you have in terms of what opportunities you could look for. Is NEAR still your favorite coin? I mean, NEAR's got great volume analytics, so does Rune and CRV, but they're all getting fucking dumpstered. I mean, every altcoin's getting trashed, right? They have been for a while. The altcoin market's just on the back burner. Bitcoin dominance continues to rise. It is what it is. But when they do turn around, I certainly think it'll be one that'll do well, at least the ones with good volume analytics, because it shows that the activity in that particular coin is still high, if not the highest it's ever been, despite where the price is trading at. Like, what is the only play you could really do right now on Bitcoin if you had to take a trade is to short it, but it's not, nothing's, we don't even have a 4-hour close below. NEAR looks attractive price-wise. Yeah, I mean, if Bitcoin wants to actually maintain this rally and not just, if Bitcoin goes sub 80K, right, we're going to print new lows on all the altcoins. If Bitcoin goes under 80K, the alts are going to take another beating. No doubt about that. So you got to play it out and then make sure that you're watching Bitcoin if you want to dabble in the altcoins, like always. Use good risk management. You know, good execution, because obviously altcoins have been getting fucking dumpstered for a while now. Some of them did pretty good, like Zcash did pretty good, but since then Zcash is already plummeting back down. Zcash kind of decoupled from the rest of the altcoins, but in the last couple of weeks it's been under stress for sure. I mean, you can look at this chart, right? Would you, if you didn't know what this was just a random financial instrument, and maybe you're not even good at reading charts, does this look like a buy to you? I mean, maybe it's a good spot to buy it, but it's like trying to catch a falling knife. I'd rather catch the higher low than try and catch the lower low. So, yeah, maybe, but I'm not interested in risking any money on Zcash right now, unfortunately. I do root for the Zcash. Like, it's not that I don't like Zcash, their community or their project. Just obviously thinking of the risk. Zcash short has been nice. Yeah, I mean, it's probably not even done yet, because you just took out all the highs that created the insignificant lows and you reversed hard off of it. That's not a good sign. And you have Bitcoin pumping today, which should be able to help Zcash out. You've got equal lows. Yeah, this. We'll monitor this thing together, guys. But until I see more data come in on it, I can't wave the green flag on it where it's at currently. Okay, Bitcoin might pop the top again here. How many equal highs can Bitcoin make today? Imagine we make another equal high and this thing just dumps. XMR. Yeah, it seems to be the sentiment that XMR might be better than Zcash. I don't know, those are two competing coins, Zcash and XMR, in terms of privacy. I mean, XMR looks like it could go for it. It's just, I believe I did analysis on XMR in the previous stream. So I'm not going to go through it all again, but I believe it was the previous recording where I went through the XMR analysis. Do you give any attention to the volume at certain prices? Kind of, not significant weight or attention to it because, yeah, volume. I get what you're saying. You're talking about volume profiles like point of control and stuff. Not really. The issue with volume profiles is you're either doing intraday, so you're only working with 24 hours worth of data, trying to determine where the price is going to go next. I mean, if you're only working with 24 hours of data using any tool, you're already at a severe disadvantage because why not use more data? And then if you want to use more data, then you would, sort of decide or fix where the volume profile would be, and that gets quite arbitrary. And if you zoom out all the way and it's not arbitrary, then there's really no. It's like one opportunity maybe once a year. And even then, it doesn't even work that often. So yeah, no. The only tools I like in volume is just vanilla volume, and then there is another tool of volume that's pretty good. If you're like Tom, you might find this interesting if you're here. You're getting better at reading divergences on RSI. So imagine that the salt, the pepper that goes along with that would be called on balance volume. OBV is the indicator, and it works the same way as relative strength index as far as reading divergence. So if you have a divergence in the volume and you have a divergence in the relative strength, those two together are quite powerful. Obviously, if you're doing it on low time frame, it's not going to be very effective, just like most strategies are on low time frame. But if you're doing it on like 4 hours, it's not too bad. I try and hyper focus on price because it's the most important thing by a mile, by a long shot. So, want to throw some pepper on your steak. Some people like just salt on their steak. Some people like salt and pepper. I don't know. It's not a bad tool in a reading volume. Definitely when you compare it to volume profiles or VWAP or something like that. Okay, if we get above this, we're going to see another flood come in. CBD, no. You can use these tools if you want, but Island, you know what I would say about that, right? It's just a complement to the price action. Indicators are okay, but there's a lot of pitfalls with them. They're not necessarily good. They're just okay. And then if you give them weight like they're good, then you're gonna have a rough time. So the biggest issue, honestly, is knowing how much weight and significance to give them. Like, how much significance should I give to a fucking MACD? Moving average cross-up strategy, or how much significance should I give to, whatever fucking indicator you want to use. Most people will tend to, some people use moving averages like it's the holy grail. And that can work, but only on super high time frame stuff where it's not netting you very many opportunities anyways, and it's not netting you that good of risk reward. It doesn't give you entries or exits. I mean, I guess when it crosses up, it's time to buy. When it crosses down, it's time to sell, that kind of thing. But it's low opportunities, low returns. Oh, here we go. Big flood. Big flood, anyone? It's kind of a small one so far. Is that really it? The 200 to 150? Yeah, I mean, if you're using like super high time frame moving averages, then yeah, it's likely to work. But the thing about it is, like, how many opportunities is that netting you? And okay, let's see how I can explain this. I've never drawn this out before, but I can try. So, price is going up, and then it starts to reverse, and then it starts to reverse, and the two moving averages are working like this, right? Like, one of them's going up, and then the other one is going up, and they cross like here. So, okay, time to buy it here, right? And then they go up, and then they start to turn, and then they start to turn, and then they cross again. It's like, okay, time to sell it here. Well, I mean, like, you're capturing a gain of here to here on a high time frame. So it's like very minimal. You can't use leverage with it because invalidations are going to be super fucking wide, and maybe you get an opportunity once a blue moon. So you're capturing a very small move once in a blue moon, and you can't even add leverage to it. It's not a strategy that doesn't work. I'm not saying that moving averages on the high time frame don't work. Well, sometimes they don't work, but they can work. It's just very limited, and you know, it's like might as well just buy the S&P at that point, unless you're just throwing risk management to the window and you're saying every time the cross-ups happen, it's going to work. I'm going to go full port on every time it does it, and then the one time it doesn't, you blow up the account. The Latvian sniper has arrived. What's up, S-Case? Everyone was asking for you, S-Case. They want the next gem pick. What's the next penny stock that's going to go to the moon? The daily candle on Bitcoin's hot. I mean, yeah, it's a crazy daily candle. It's a lot. It's a nice move, man. It's a nice move. No doubt about it. Still gonna take it one sub at a time, but it is a nice move. I have to give it to the bulls there. So the other thing I'm looking at here is like how much market buying is coming in on the spot market versus how much market selling is coming in and how much has happened in the past. So one of the ways I'm analyzing this is I'm looking down here at the volume nodes. Can I make this bigger? No. Because it might be hard for you guys to see, particularly if you're on a mobile, but I'll zoom in right now. So the candle, the volume node down here will close green if more people press the market order button on the green side than the red side. Obviously, there's two ways you can enter the market, right? You could have a resting limit order, resting bid, and say, okay, I'll buy the Bitcoin if you want to sell it to me at this price. Or you can say, I want to enter right now, so I'll buy the Bitcoin from you at this price that you've determined. So if the volume node closes green, that means in that hour of trading, more people have pressed the green button and market bought in. Instead of doing the resting thing, they've just bought at the market price. And the same thing is true with the red, right? So next I look at like the bright color here within the node, and that shows me like how much more was there. Like if we didn't see the bright color, we would just know, okay, well in that hour more people press green market buy, but how much more? And the taller the bright red is, or the taller the bright green is, shows how much more of market buying or market selling was happening in that hour. We know that there was more in the last hour, there was more market buying because it closed green, but how much more market buying was there? Okay, and then we zoom out, and you know, just naturally we've seen more market selling coming in general. Now, here's the flip side to that. Despite the fact that there's been more market selling, why is the price going up? This is where people would argue that accumulation is taking place. And more people pressing the red button, but the price is going up. So is that accumulation? Well, it might be. That's certainly a good counter argument. The thing that I'm worried about is the accumulation that's taking place by market makers and liquidity providers such as Wintermute and such as, you know, the whole lot of them are notoriously active market participants. They advertise that when they enter a position, a directional based position, that's outside of the realm of delta neutral. So positions that are not looking to go delta neutral but have some sort of bias, at least Wintermute advertises that they do it for medium term positions, medium term length, low time frame length and medium time frame length, which means that the same market participants that are accumulating are notorious for also selling. So doesn't mean we can't go higher, but typically if you want something to go higher and you want it to stay higher, you want passive market participants to bid the market. So you want a guy like Saylor to be buying. The reason being is because Saylor's not planning on selling anytime soon. But Binance and Wintermute, they might sell at some point in the future. So that's why it's a beautiful green candle. I'm really rooting for Bitcoin like I always do, but I'm still going to be stringent on the rallies on the way up. I mean, if they show strength, if the structure's good, and it's all bueno, and then yeah, man, let's fucking pump it. But it doesn't change the fact that I'm still going to be a little bit more conditional. I mentioned to you guys that on Bitcoin once we got around here. I was saying I'm going to be conditional on these rallies. Even the fabled 89K level, which I was rooting for so much because that would just be such a power play if we could have held 89K. I mean, that if we held 89K and ripped it up 10%, 20%, this thing would be gearing up to go to fucking Jupiter. But that wasn't the case, and so facing the reality of that is, yes, the bulls are winning the battle currently, that battle for the fluidity at 89K, but of course it's been a messy battle. I mean, I don't think anybody can deny that. It's been a messy fight, and so, like I said earlier, when a messy fight happens, one side wins at the end of it. But how confident am I that they're going to win the next one? I'm a little bit less confident than I would be. They still want it, so they can still win it again, but it'd be lovely if they won it in a decisive fashion that way. Just be easier to be confident they'll win again. More confident they'll win again. Urban bearish? It depends on what you mean by bearish. Like, do I think Bitcoin's going to zero? No. Do I think Bitcoin will eventually get another all-time high? Yes. So then the question is, how long will that take? He's just playing it level by level. Yeah, that's all you can do, because anything outside of that is just raw speculation. I mean, it's like, okay, let me pick out two numbers. Bitcoin's going to 15K a coin, or Bitcoin's going to $1 million a coin. Like, I don't know that. And you know I don't know that, and you know that nobody knows that. But where if Bitcoin's going to be going at 15K or it's going to go to $1 million, nobody fucking knows. So yeah, I have to play it level by level. But I'll get cheeky with it because you guys asked me, like, you know, what is the long-term projection and where is it going in the long term and that kind of stuff. Like I said, man, I don't think it's going to zero. I think it'll eventually get another all-time high. So that statement alone is bullish, is it not? But my question is, how long will it take before we get another all-time high? Could it take a year? It could. Could it take a couple years? It could. Could it happen in the next financial quarter? It could. And as these structures start to look more bearish on a step-by-step basis, then I lean a little bit more like, okay, this might take longer. If things start to turn around, it starts to look good, and I see good structure for them and all that bullish jazz, then I can say, okay, it's probably going to happen sooner. But the reality of the situation is, nobody, not even Saylor, not Larry Fink, nobody fucking knows when we're going to get another all-time high. Everybody likes to throw out that we're going to get one, it's going to be $1 million a coin. I mean, Bitcoin might be at $1 million a coin one day. Who knows? But how long will that take? And I don't attach a time frame to it, because that would be, you know, if I wanted to clickbait people, if I wanted more viewers in here, I'd just be like, we're going to the moon, boys! Bitcoin's going to $1 million by 2027! And everyone would be clapping and it'd be a party in here. But, I mean, people would get hurt if I did that. People might get hurt. Or the flip side of that is, Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, it's going to zero. Fuck Bitcoin. Well, people might get hurt in that scenario too. And in both those claims, I would be disingenuous. And I don't think, when people give speculation, like particularly with Saylor, I don't think he's being disingenuous. I don't think he's coming from a malicious point of view. I think he's just really drank the Kool-Aid. Which, hey, it might be good Kool-Aid. Who knows? I mean, shit, I could definitely see Bitcoin being $1 million a coin someday, for sure. But does it happen in your lifetime? I don't know. I'm going to continue to take it one step at a time as a trader, because that's the most important thing to me. And then also, well, if I see certain things, like, okay, here's the thing. Who was here in 2024? When I saw this, I told you, we're probably going to get another all-time high. Now, I didn't know it was going to be this big, but I was fairly confident that it was going to be at least higher than this. And then, who was here at 58, 59K, right here? I said the same thing again, new all-time high. But I don't know how high it's going to go. It's impossible to know that, because why is it impossible to know that? Because you don't know How many people will turn into a seller after new price discovery has happened? People that wouldn't normally sell become sellers. If we go down a lot, price goes down a lot, people that wouldn't normally buy become buyers. That's why no one can know. Let's say Bitcoin goes on a huge fire sale and Bitcoin's trading down at 60,000 a coin. I guarantee there's going to be some gold bugs that hop over to the Bitcoin wagon and they're like, oh, Bitcoin's cheap. Let me go pick up some Bitcoin. Or if gold crashes a lot, some of the people in the Mag 7 might be like, oh, gold's on sale. But we can't quantify how many people will do that and with how much money before the price action starts to print. And then once the structure is starting to print, then we can see how people are positioning and what that supply and demand really looks like. And supply and demand at its core function is just, why didn't the price go lower? Why didn't the price go higher? Look at a chart, ask yourself, why didn't the price go higher? Why didn't it go lower? It didn't go higher because there wasn't enough demand to match the supply. It didn't go lower because there wasn't enough supply to match the demand. $60,000 is a huge fire. So I was throwing out a number there. All right. You missed the part where you can't just throw out a number like 60K and say that's where we're going. Or even like 30K or 40K or 250K, whatever it is. So by me saying that I don't think Bitcoin is going to go to zero, I think Bitcoin will eventually get another all-time high someday, I guess that would just make me a permabull. I guess you can call me a permabull if you want, but here's the thing. It's not going to zero. It might go to $1, but it's not going to zero. People that say it's going to zero, that's also clickbait. You don't think that somebody's going to step in, fuck it, I might step in, at $1 a Bitcoin and not try and grab as much of that supply as you can? Because it's not, here's the thing, if it goes straight to $1, it's going to have some kind of bounce after. Maybe not a bounce anywhere near the all-time high, maybe it'll be in a deep bear market for decades to come, but it's going to bounce off of $1 and probably hit like 10K and then go down again, but like that's a huge fucking play. The active market participants will step in. What we saw, another example here, what we saw in 2024 is when this happened, the largest European hedge fund started to bid in. I'll tell you this. I show you guys the icebergs all the time, right? This looks like thick icebergs, right? All these, if you've been watching for a while, this looks pretty thick, right? All these huge yellow deep icebergs that popped up. This was nothing compared to what we saw here. Icebergs were setting up shop all around this candle. They just came out of the fucking woodwork. They came out of the woodwork. Just like it would make these icebergs look like nothing. But until this happened, how did we know that was all those buyers were gonna come out of the woodwork? I just tuned in where we're going and Urban's talking about going to $1. If you know who's doing it, obviously, well, here's the thing. Do institutions win every trade they take? Every single trade that they enter, active investment that they enter, do you think it always goes according to plan? I mean, what kind of returns would you be looking at? But so you can't obviously know what was going to happen, right? You can know, yeah, you can know that it's probabilities, but you can't know, which I'm sure you meant that. Like, probabilistically, you would have an idea of where it's going to go. Yeah, that's all it is. You can obviously know with high probability. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I don't know, man. You'd be surprised of the returns of hedge funds. How well hedge funds fare on the market. And I've gone into detail to explain that before, right? Like, there's a reason why hedge funds don't outperform the S&P. Either they're really dog shit at active investing, or they're protecting your downside. So instead of getting all the gains, you get less gains in case the market dumps. Then you feel less of the sting. So it's just like mitigating risk a bit more. If they can completely mitigate risk, which you can't completely do, but if they can do a damn good job at it, then if they're beating the bond yield, then technically it's not that bad. But they have to beat the bond yield after management fees are taken and profit so the 2% management and the 20% profit split. After that's done, the net has to be able to beat the bond. And they've got to be real damn good at protecting your downside. Then it would be advantageous for market participants who are want to be even safer. They want a little bit more action than the treasury, the bonds, but they also want to be safe in the alphas. I don't know. That's just for people that aren't as sophisticated in the market. Not the hedge funds, but the people that are giving the hedge funds the money to actively manage, which is understandable. Not everybody is gonna put in the time and the obsession to get really good at playing the markets. Yeah, this is 4 hours coming up here in 3 minutes, boys. Trump talking, let's see. Is he talking about crypto? I don't think I have it set up. Let me see. We could get volatility from the Trump speech. I can probably set it up right now. Let's see. Where is he talking?
Tuesday. I don't know if anybody's.
So it's a good thing, right? Don't get me wrong. Investing in America's future is a good thing. The biggest question should be, where is the money going? Now, I'm not trying to be Mr. Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to be the Debbie Downer. I'm just talking about the long-term ramifications of what that could mean. If it goes into the S&P 500, that pretty much locks in those 500 companies to just have more consolidate power. And I mean, those 500 companies are just going to have more. It's going to expedite monopolies, meaning the U.S. government's pretty much saying, we're going to back our top 500. Anybody who's not in the top 500, good luck trying to catch up from here on out, because you're fucked. And so that might not seem too bad, but what that leads to is less competition in certain industries, which would actually raise the prices of goods because they can. If you're the only person that can sell TVs, or the only company that can sell TVs, you can kind of name your price. And of course you could be like, okay, well, why can't a smaller business come and try and compete and undercut the price? Well, they could, but do they have the funding of the fucking American people behind them to succeed? Like, this is good for the stock market. It's good for the people receiving this investment account. It's bad for small businesses, and it's bad for small businesses in the short term. In the long term, we're all going to have to serve our great leader, Jeff Bezos. Because it'll consolidate the power. So I don't know the alternative. The way I would do it as an alternative would just be put them in bonds, put them in T-notes. Yes, it's not going to compound as quick, but it'll compound. It'll still compound. It's obviously not going to be as quick, but I think that's the best way you could do it, because then you can also help out the bond market as well. I mean, if you're investing in America, if you're investing in American people, and those American people are investing in America, that's like a win-win situation. The biggest question that the first thing that they should ask is, where the fuck is the money going to go, though? Because here's the thing, right? If you knew, let's say it wasn't the S&P 500. Let's say that they say all this money is going to go into Bitcoin. All the investments that are going to be made and the investment accounts, it's all going to go into Bitcoin. Everybody would be buying Bitcoin like crazy right now. And actually would probably be a better alternative than to monopolize, to have monopolies be expedited. But I don't know. The return would be lower, but you wouldn't run the risk of entering the dark side of late stage capitalism, which is Jeff Bezos names the price. Everybody works for Jeff Bezos. And that's the end of the story. I don't think that's how it should go. But these kind of problems that I'm talking about likely won't be realized anytime in the near future. It's going to be a problem that will probably happen way later down the road. So it's not a big issue. The good news is it's going to help the markets pump, right? It's going to help the markets pump. At least the S&P. It's going to help the S&P. Ooh, that's a big jump. It's gonna help the S&P pump, but what kind of world are those kids going to live in if there's only 5 companies that control everything? In this case, 500 companies. So 500 companies that control everything. But if there's any arbitrary number attached to, if the U.S. government is investing in businesses, that's already, in my opinion, not good. Like bailing out companies and that kind of stuff. I don't know. If we're gonna play the free market game, then let's play the free market game, right? Like, why are we bailing out some companies, not bailing out others? Obviously, there's reasoning to that. They want to save the economy and that kind of stuff. But then you're just like, that's not competition. That's just consolidating more and more power in the hands of fewer and fewer people in the long run. And if businesses are solely operated to make money, I mean, if they can raise their prices, they will raise their prices. So the sentiment is really good. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I think it's good to want to invest in your people, because, I mean, look at how China's done that. They're fucking catching up, if not overtaking the U.S. They invest in their people. It's good to invest in your people, but I think it's better that the people invest in the country. So you invest in the people invest in the country. Okay, give them the investment account and put it in U.S. bonds. Done deal. Win-win. Yes, the money's not going to grow as fast, but it's not going to be as high risk for society and honestly for the markets, because it's going to drive the float up real fucking high and real fast. If anything, it's honestly going to increase the wealth divide. So I like where their heart is at. I just don't know if they've thought out, what the long-term ramifications would be. Like, it seems like a nice gesture, and I'm sure that it's coming from a good place, but these things need to be thought out, and I don't know, man. I don't have control in the government. My opinion is what it is. It's going to happen regardless of what I think. I'm just curious on what it could lead to. That's how I see it. Maybe somebody can challenge my thought there. Do you think it'll not affect it that much compared to the S&P market cap? Well, if they're doing it every single generation for like the next forever, eventually it will. Maybe not the first. Like I said, it's not. I don't think it's going to be a problem anytime in the near future. But way down the road, it certainly could be. I mean, yeah. If every single new generation, and then also, when do they get access to the money? Because if they get access to the money by the time they turn 18, okay, come on, you're going to give an 18-year-old that much money, you know what's going to happen. Come on, we all know what's going to happen. If you gave your 18-year-olds, think about yourself as an 18-year-old. Let's say you just get handed a couple $100K. That money's going out the door. Maybe not everybody, but let's be realistic. The vast, vast, vast fucking majority. It's gonna go to a new car. It's gonna go to hookers and cocaine. It's gonna go to the casino. Come on. Maybe they shouldn't have access to the money until they're like 25 or something, or 30. That would be more realistic. But expediting monopolies is something that we probably won't have to deal with in our lifetime, but they will. Oh, I didn't realize when they were opening. I thought they were opening up I didn't read all the specifics, so it would be 28 years old. Okay, 28 years old is more reasonable for sure. I thought it was like from birth. They open it up and then they get 18 years until they can take the money out of the account. I didn't realize that it would be at 28. That's more reasonable. But still, I mean, it doesn't take away from the fact that you're consolidating power in a supposedly free market. I mean, we have history of this in the United States. We have antitrust. Like, we've had monopolies. And we knew to shut that shit down. This is not new in history, and it's not even new in US history. And it was a big fucking fight that took a long time to break up the monopolies. Why don't we just merge all the companies in the S&P 500? We merge them all into one company. You don't think it would have a significant effect on monopolies? Okay, well, why do you say that? And also, I want to frame my argument by saying that I don't think it would have an immediate effect. I think this is a problem that would be created way later down the road. S&P 500 is not a company stock, yeah, but there's companies that make up the S&P. I don't know, maybe my argument is just I make myself sound like a dumbass, but I'd love to be enlightened as to why. All this talking has made Bitcoin dump. Yeah, Bitcoin wasn't happy with it. Yeah, if it went, okay, here's the thing. I'd rather have it go to gold, to Bitcoin, but ideally go into the bond market. Because then it's a win-win. You invest in your people and they invest in you. That's a win-win. It might be slower, but when it gets paid out really matters and how, because why save up all this cash if you give an 18-year-old 100 to 200K? Yeah, I mean, maybe it should be like in installments. Like you can't cash it all out, but you can take like, you can take payments from it. That would make more sense. And the custodian is the government, I guess, which kind of gets a little socialist, but that's fine. I think it's still better to do it that way. You certainly couldn't have any private entity be the custodian. It'd have to be the government. Listen, man, I think it's a great idea. It just, the execution was, I think we missed a little bit. It comes from a great place, and it's a good idea. I think it just could be tweaked, that's all. You guys know when it comes to politics, I don't swear allegiance to the left or the right. I just try and take every issue as they come and then see the good and the bad. How everyone should be, in my opinion. Trump Bitcoin account would be sick. Every generation gets one Bitcoin. Well, you're gonna run out of Bitcoin pretty quick if that's the case. Alright, probably call it here today, boys. Appreciate everybody stopping by and sticking around. Want to do a recap? The recap will be posted in the on the YouTube channel. The VOD will be posted later today on the YouTube channel, probably within a couple hours, so you can watch the beginning. But yeah, for those of you that have been asking for like low fees for your trading and stuff, obviously a lot of the exchanges come to me, right? Like my DMs are full of all of them. So I've been trying to get you guys a deal, but here's the thing, right? there's low fees, and then there's also security and trusting an exchange. Like if I was to put my name on an exchange, right, and I'd want to be pretty confident that it's solid. Because, like, I mean, here's the thing, right? No exchange is 100% good. I mean, look at Binance. Binance is supposed to be the king, right? They're pretty fucking sus. FTX was supposed to be the king. We all know what happened to FTX. So I found a deal that has lower fees than Binance, lower fees than Bybit, all of that, and also is a pretty reputable exchange. So I'll link that in the Discord today at some point. You guys have been asking for that for almost a year now, and I haven't really delivered on it, so I'll launch that today. Yeah, it's another cool feature of it is you can trade gold on there too with perpetual contracts. But you'll be able to see that later today, so you'll get pinged in Discord. You can check it out there. But yeah, man, as always, you know, be safe, right? Use risk management. Obviously, if you're gonna do 1000x leverage, which this place doesn't offer 1000x, but let's say you do like 100x leverage, full port account, like you're betting your entire account on one trade, 100x leverage. You know, there's a chance you're gonna fucking lose everything. So make sure you use good risk management, as always, right? Yeah, man. On the October 10th crash, if you guys remember, if you're trading on October 10th, when everything got fucked, a lot of people got fucked. Even if you didn't lose your whole account, you definitely felt a sting. Even if you're just a spot trader, you definitely felt a sting. I felt a sting on October 10th. This exchange was one of the few exchanges that actually shouldered the losses for October 10th. So they instead of making a fuck ton of money like all the other exchanges did, they actually made almost none on October 10th. That was one of the first things that stood out to me, and then I was like, all right, I'll do a deeper dive on it. Yeah, I can, Bugatti. But yeah, have a good rest of your Tuesday, guys. The VOD for today will be posted. You can see my update on high time frame Bitcoin, obviously high time frame legacy markets, S&P, VIX, oil, dollar, gold, silver, and the bond market. And then, of course, Ethereum's in there too. Ethereum against Bitcoin. Actually, I went through today, if you're late, I went through Solana, Doge, XRP, and some other ones as well. Zcash, of course. So yeah, just it'll be posted today, so just have a look in the Discord and you'll be able to see. I'll ping everybody, so you'll get pinged for it. But yeah, Nightbot just posted the link. I don't know if that link works, but if you're new here, that's where the Discord is. So it's not the lowest fees that you can possibly get, like it's not MEXC, but the odds of anything sus happening is much lower than MEXC. MEXC's good and bad, right? There's some stories of some stuff happening on MEXC. Some people don't have any bad stories with MEXC, but you know, it comes with some of those exchanges. So it's not the lowest fees in the game. I could have gone for that, but I wouldn't have been as confident with the security and actually making sure that the funds are safe, or relatively safe, right? There's obviously FTX that happened and Binance that happens. It's not, you know, 1,000,000% safe, but it's a lot safer than like MEXC and you know, those other exchanges that are out there. So I'll see y'all later. And yeah, the VOD will be posted on pretty soon.